Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a text that's what, over 2,500 years old, yet somehow it feels like it could have been written for today's world. We're talking about Sun Tzu's The Art of War, you might think, ancient battles, swords, shields, dusty history. But our source material, these excerpts from The Art of War, timeless strategic principles, they show us something far more profound, really.
It's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? How Sun Tzu's wisdom just transcends all that. It's not just swords and shields.
Yeah.
This deep dive, it's not just about military tactics. It's really a masterclass in leadership and human psychology. And maybe most importantly, how to navigate life's challenges with, well, intelligence.
Yeah.
Our mission today, I think, is to pull out those surprising nuggets of knowledge, the actionable stuff, things that can help you win without fighting, whether that's in, say, business or sports or just your everyday life.
Right, and that quote, the greatest victory is the one won without fighting. That's such a surprising place to start for a book called The Art of War, and our source really highlights his core belief that victory is won before the battle begins through preparation.
Uh-huh.
So, what does this preparation actually look like, according to Sun Tzu? What are the foundational elements here?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you win before you even start? Sun Tzu lays out these 5 constant factors, these pillars for success, right there in laying plans. First, there's moral law. And it's not quite ethics, like we might think of it. It's more about total unity, complete trust and alignment between leaders and the people they lead. Imagine like a team where everyone is just on board.
Okay, like deep alignment.
Exactly. That's a
Yeah.
huge strategic advantage. Then there's heaven, which sounds mystical, but it's really about timing, conditions, the bigger picture, like market conditions, or even just the weather.
Sure.
Is the timing right?
Reading the signs.
Precisely. Then earth, that's your terrain, distances, resources, the physical landscape of the challenge, the commander, which is all about leadership qualities, wisdom, sincerity, courage, discipline, the works.
Yeah, human element.
Right. And finally, method and discipline, organization, control, logistics, basically having your house in order. If you connect this all up, it's about rigorous calculation before you act. Weighing strengths, studying the environment, and only making your move when you know you have the advantage.
That makes so much sense. Intense preparation. But then he immediately talks about waging war. Chapter 2, warning that war is incredibly costly. Resources, time, morale. What's the practical lesson there for us, maybe outside of actual battlefields?
Well, Sun Tzu strongly advises against dragging things out. Prolonged battles, prolonged conflicts. They just weaken you. The longer something drags on, the more resources it consumes, the more morale drops.
Yeah, you see that in projects at work or even personal arguments sometimes.
Exactly. Those long, unnecessary struggles, they just drain your energy. So the key takeaway here is speed, efficiency, decisive action. Save lives, save resources, save your own sanity sometimes. Act swiftly and decisively when the time is right. Don't let things fester.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me and maybe a bit counterintuitive. In Attack by Stratagem, Chapter 3, Sun Tzu says, supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. How on earth do you do that? I mean, if you're not fighting, what's the weapon?
It does sound a bit like magic, doesn't it? But this is pure Sun Tzu genius. It's all about outsmarting, not outfighting, using your brain over brute force. He lays out this hierarchy of success, which is crucial. First, best case. Win without fighting at all. That's the peak.
Okay.
If you can't do that, the next best thing is to disrupt their alliances.
Yeah.
Isolate them. Make them weaker indirectly.
Break their support network.
Exactly. Only after that, as a third option, do you think about attacking their army directly. And the absolute last resort, attacking their fortified city or position. That's the costliest option. Think about it in business. A startup doesn't always win by outspending. Sometimes they just create a whole new category.
Making the old way irrelevant.
Precisely. Or they build such a strong community that rivals just can't compete. That's winning without direct fighting. It's intellectual victory first.
So it's about strategic smarts, avoiding the head-on clash if possible. That seems to connect to Tactical Dispositions, Chapter 4, where he says, defend when you are weak, attack when you are strong. It sounds simple enough, but what's the deeper layer there for us?
Well, a good leader, Sun Tzu says, positions their forces or their resources, their team, whatever, so they cannot be easily attacked. You make yourself invulnerable first. But while you're doing that, you're constantly looking for opportunities, for weaknesses, waiting for the moment when the opponent is unprepared.
So defense isn't passive.
Not at all. Defense buys you time. It lets you consolidate, build strength when you feel vulnerable. Offense, then, is about seizing that opportunity when you have the clear advantage, when you see that opening. Think about a negotiation. You hold your ground, gather info that's defense. Then when you spot a key concession they might make, you push. That's offense.
Makes sense. Consolidate, then strike.
And how does energy, Chapter 5, play into this? Our source mentions using direct and indirect tactics together, like a well-conducted orchestra.
Yeah, the orchestra analogy is great. Victory, Sun Tzu argues, comes from skillfully combining the expected and the unexpected. The direct, straightforward approach is the main push, the obvious move combined with indirect surprise tactics. It's not just one or the other, it's the interplay between them. Every move, direct or indirect, needs to work together, part of the overall plan.
Keeps the opponent off balance.
Exactly. The lesson is to mix predictable actions with unexpected moves. Keep them guessing. It creates this dynamic advantage.
Like a feint in boxing followed by the real punch.
Perfect analogy. That unpredictability is key. Which leads nicely into weak points and strong, Chapter 6. I love the imagery here. Just as water flows to the lowest point, your strategy should flow towards the enemy's vulnerabilities.
It's such a powerful metaphor, isn't it?
Right.
This is absolutely fundamental. Seek out and exploit weakness. You actively avoid their strengths. Don't attack where they're strongest. That's inefficient, costly. Instead, you probe, you find where they're unprepared, where they're vulnerable, where it hurts them most, and you hit there.
Path of least resistance, but maximum impact.
Precisely. It highlights that success often comes from adaptability, from being fluid like water. Constantly assess, find the weak point, and flow your energy towards that. Don't just bang your head against their strongest wall.
Okay, moving armies sounds incredibly complex, risky, and Sun Tzu agrees in maneuvering, Chapter 7. It consumes resources, morale. What's the modern takeaway when we're thinking about making big shifts or changes in our own lives or work?
Well, the core message there is about the cost of movement and the need for discipline during it. Communication, unity, clear objectives, they're essential when you're maneuvering, whether it's a team-shifting strategy or you changing careers. And Sun Tzu warns specifically, don't get lured into bad positions. Don't make a move just because you feel you have to.
So, movement without purpose is waste.
Exactly. Plan before you act. Make sure every step, every shift serves the bigger goal. Move with intent.
What about changing those plans, though? Variation in Tactics, Chapter 8, says you can't just stick to one approach. Why is being rigid so dangerous?
Because situations always change, right? The environment shifts, the opponent adapts. Flexibility isn't just nice to have. It's key to survival, key to success. Rigid thinking when everything around you is evolving, that's dangerous. Adaptability wins. You absolutely must be willing to evolve your strategies as circumstances change. Don't cling to a plan just because it was the original plan.
So constantly reassess and be ready to pivot.
Yes, not out of panic, but as a calculated strategic adjustment.
This really makes me think about staying sharp, staying observant. In The Army on the March, Chapter 9, he talks about reading subtle signs, dust clouds, bird flight, sounds. What stands out to you there for us today?
What stands out is just how crucial observation is. The smallest details can reveal the biggest truths. Sun Tzu is telling leaders to read everything, the physical environment, yes, but also the subtle behaviors of the opponent or the market or your team.
Reading the room, essentially, but on a grander scale.
Exactly. It's about being present, being discerning, noticing things others miss. In our world, maybe it's reading body language or noticing a slight shift in customer feedback or picking up on undercurrents in your industry. That awareness gives you a huge edge.
And he really doubles down on that with chapters like Terrain, Chapter 10, and the 9 Situations, Chapter 11, basically drilling into understanding your specific environment.
Precisely. He gets incredibly specific. Different types of ground, accessible, difficult, deadly, require totally different tactics. And then he categorizes battlefields or situations into 9 types. Things like dispersive ground where morale is low, or desperate ground where there's no escape.
And he says desperation can be a weapon.
Yeah, it's fascinating. He points out that soldiers fight with incredible ferocity when their backs are against the wall. There's power in that if you understand it. It all just hammers home.
Yeah.
Understand the specific context before you choose your strategy. Know what kind of ground you're on.
Then there's attack by fire, Chapter 12. Our source notes fire can be a metaphor for any really powerful, maybe even destructive force. How does Sun Tzu say we should handle that kind of power?
Carefully. He says use it, yes, when conditions are right, when it can achieve a decisive result. But, and this is critical, don't let your own forces get consumed by the chaos. Control the burn.
Don't get caught in your own firestorm.
Exactly. It's about using power wisely, with precision, controlling the potential damage, not just unleashing it recklessly. Think about, say, a major announcement or a disruptive product launch. You want impact, but you need to manage the fallout.
Okay, finally, we get to use of spies, chapter 13. Our source calls information the lifeblood of strategy, and flat out says, knowledge is the greatest weapon. That feels like a powerful note to end on.
Oh, absolutely. It brings so much of his philosophy together. A leader who knows the enemy's plans, their strengths, their weaknesses through good intelligence. That leader can win without needless cost, maybe without any fighting at all. And he gets so detailed. 5 types of spies. Local, inside, double agents, expendable ones, living ones. It shows how vital he thought intelligence gathering was.
So in our world, that's market research, competitive analysis, customer feedback.
All of it. Knowing the landscape, knowing the players, knowing yourself, that knowledge truly can shift the balance before a single shot is fired. It's the ultimate strategic advantage.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening right now? The Art of War is clearly so much more than just an old military book. It really feels like a handbook, maybe even an operating system for navigating modern life, whether you're in business or sports, making tough personal choices, or just dealing with daily challenges. Sun Tzu's principles hammer home the power of preparation, the absolute need for adaptability, and using intelligence over just brute force.
Yeah, if you zoom out, it's a philosophy really centered on avoiding unnecessary fights whenever possible. It's about observing closely, finding and exploiting weaknesses, whether in a competitor or just a problem you're facing. It highlights the importance of unity, good leadership, timing your actions just right, using your resources efficiently, and always remembering that information, that knowledge, is fundamental power. Which leaves us with a question for you, maybe. How might really understanding these timeless principles change how you approach the conflicts and challenges in your own life? Could it help you start thinking, several steps ahead and maybe find ways to win without throwing that first punch?